Today we're going to talk about gaskets, and right now a particular gasket. This is on your GM application for your remote oil filter adapter on your GM 4.3, 5.0, and 5.7. Here is your aftermarket application versus your OE application, and I can tell you which one not to use. Aaron, how many of these have I bought from you in the past 6 months?
I would say at least 5 to 6.
Correct. About 8 months ago I had an issue with, I think it was 2001 S10 Blazer, 4.3 four-wheel drive, remote oil filter adapter. I replaced that gasket 3 times and could not get it to stop leaking. I kept using the aftermarket because I didn't know there was a difference. Finally, I got one from you, from the dealer. It hadn't leaked since. Now, just miking them out, I can tell you there's a difference in thickness. I don't know if that matters. It doesn't matter to me. All I know is the OE gasket on this particular application does not leak versus I've had the aftermarket leak.
Right. And your aftermarket gasket, what was your thickness?
We have a difference of 33 thousandths versus on the aftermarket and 24 thousandths on the dealer, the OE. And
just a visual inspection, the metal reinforcement that's between the gasket material on this one,
the aftermarket.
On the aftermarket is a lot thicker versus the one on the OEM, and they make up for it on the gasket though. The gasket on the OEM is thicker and more, would you say, pliable?
I think so. I think so.
The aftermarket gasket, what we're thinking is this one will flex a little more. The OEM will flex and conform to any imperfections on the surfaces.
Correct.
Versus this one.
All I know is I don't like replacing gaskets for no reason and not get paid for it, and that's what I did. So anytime we have a remote oil filter adapter application on a GM 4.3, 5.0, 5.7, I'm going to tell you right now, to save you a lot of headache and a lot of wasted time, go ahead and get it from the dealer. What's the retail price on that gasket, Aaron?
Retail price is going to ring in around $6.
Yeah.
Versus how much for the aftermarket?
I paid a lot more than $6, I think, for the aftermarket.
I mean, yeah, sure, you get a bunch of O-rings, but what are you going to do those?
I don't know. Rubber bands?
Yeah, play games.
Play with people? I don't know. Now, there are some instances where aftermarket is better than OE. I've run into that before, actually on a GM.
Really?
On the GM 3.1s, 3.4s, and 4.3s, the aftermarket company actually makes a better gasket. When I go back to the dealer, I still get their type of plastic floating gasket, and I've replaced, I can't tell you how many of these, and any kind of GM tech will tell you they replaced a whole bunch of them, versus if you go aftermarket, it's an actual steel gasket with hard rubber, and those just don't leak.
So what you're telling me is that a manufacturer corporation that has hundreds of engineers, pays them millions of dollars a year, makes a gasket, and you have aftermarket company make one that's better?
That's what I'm telling you. I don't know how or why, but I know GM, just for some reason on this particular gasket, they all leak. I've replaced on one particular model, and it's not because I didn't do it right, because I'm using expensive tools as far as torque wrenches. I followed it by the GM procedure, and every time that plastic gasket leaks, versus if I go aftermarket, never have one come back, never have one leak.
Exactly. And you're right, because a lot of times the plastic one will flex and move under the heat and pressure and kind of move and cause a leak.
I see them just break apart. They just don't hold up. I'm not an engineer. I don't know why they designed it that way, but I'm sure there's applications. I know head gaskets, I always go back to the manufacturer. I don't trust anybody aftermarket because I've had a lot of failure rates on the aftermarket.
True, and a lot of manufacturers are going to the remote style adapter or a bolt-on adapter. GM has kind of moved on from this style gasket now to the same way with the intake gasket, the aluminum style with the rubber inserts, and they seem to have about the same success rate as these from GM.
Well, even with the oil filters, now we see a lot of canister style. For some reason, I think they're going to canister oil filters, which is a whole other conversation, but I think that's due to cost and efficiency due to the manufacturing process. But once again, we're not engineers.
Well, less waste.
Sure, whatever they want to say. If they're going to save 7 cents a car, they're going to do it.
You're right.
Good information here. This is something, once again, I'm trying to save you some time and money and some headache. In this particular case, go back to OE. Now, if you're going intake gasket, go aftermarket.
Yeah, a lot of times they do have improvements on the aftermarket. Another thing on these, when you're messing with a 4.3, 5.0, 5.7, a lot of them do have the engine oil cooler lines that run to the radiator.
Every one of those leak too.
They leak. One thing to check for is the fittings that they screw into. The seal's actually made into the fitting on a lot of them. And GM redesigned the seal from like a rubber type O-ring like this to a metal embossed washer with a seal in the center.
If the oil filter line, cool line's leaking, throw it away and get another one. If you try to repair it or anything else like that, it's not going to work.
Repair the line.
I've never had. I won't do it. Now they have started selling them on the aftermarket side, pretty affordable now. And from what I've seen thus far, I've been using those for probably a year. Haven't seen any failure rate yet.
Okay, well, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, we'll see.
Get back with me in a year, Mike.
Thanks for tuning in. Remember to check us out on Facebook. Check us out on autoeclinic.com. Any comments, questions, concerns, you can reach us on Twitter, Gmail, no, Google+, sorry. Always get back to us. If you need any information, we'll try to get back to you in a timely manner and try to get that information out to you.
And we want to thank our sponsors today. We want to thank Norris Auto Clinic for providing us the equipment, tools, and area to work with. We want to thank SamuelDJackson.com for a website. Has some awesome designs.
Love you, Sam.
Very cheap. Thank CoffeeNewsUSA.com. It's a cool little newspaper you'll see in coffee shops, restaurants, anywhere like that. Pick one up and read it. I also thank Tim's Towing. He provides all the towing needs at Norris Auto Clinic.
Great. And remember, if you want to be like us, eat good cereal.
Can't be this
Thanks, kids.